You're watching Fox 10 AZAM.
All right, well, still to come here this morning, Arizona voters have spoken raising the minimum wage here in Arizona. But what does that mean for a lot of us? We'll break it all down for you coming up next after the break. Well, new this morning, we're learning about how the passage of Prop 206 may impact your pocketbook. The new law gives workers paid sick time and raises minimum wage up to $12 an hour by 2020.
The first wage hike happens in a little more than a month. And this morning, we are talking with Lynda McKay. She's Vice President of Human Resource Consulting at Bagnall. So we were chatting in the break. There is a lot more to this than, hey, you're going to get a bigger paycheck, because you might not be.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
You bet. Well, while on surface, it is going to be a higher pay rate, minimum wage going from a little bit over $8 to almost $10, well, $10, and that's almost a $2 increase. Now, that's just the first year. Of course, by 2020, it's going to be $12. That is an $8,000 difference from right now. Huge impact within a few years that an employer, just to bring someone in, is going to cost them.
All right, so where do we look at the discrepancy where people think that they're going to take more money home, but you're saying not necessarily?
Well, a couple options employers have to choose is what can they afford? Whether it's a product or a service, that cost has to come from somewhere. And if you're going to choose to do one or the other, the fact remains is that you could actually reduce the hours of your employees so that they can manage the cost. What that means for them is basically what they were bringing home as full-time, even though they're bringing a higher dollar amount per hour, could actually mean less take-home pay.
Interesting. Now, I know during the election cycle, we saw a lot of negative ads for Prop 206, especially from some small business owners.
Yes.
This could potentially put some small business owners out of business.
It could. It really could. I mean, a $2 increase is huge to pay your employees. Starting at $8.05 versus $10, and then you have the discrepancy of employees who are already making the $10 an hour and have worked somewhere for a few years, worked their way up to that $10 mark, and now the new hires as of 1/1 will be making the $10. That's a salary compression, not to mention a morale killer.
Well, the other aspects come into play. Let's talk about sick time.
Sick time. The other piece of Prop 206 that doesn't seem to be getting as much press, but is actually more significant on the employer side. Minimum wage, it goes up. You have to pay it. Well, with paid sick time, employers have to decide how they're going to implement this, and they have to. It is for full-time, part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees. So no employer is able to walk away not implementing this paid sick time. So what ends up happening, for an example, is an employer, say, has decided to give their employees 3 weeks of PTO. A lot of companies have gone to paid time off, all-inclusive, whether it be sick, vacation. You, the employee, get to decide how to utilize that time. Well, there's no employer out there right now that I'm working with that has 3 weeks and just going to add another week on top. And it has to be tracked separately, because if it's not tracked separately, they're not in legal compliance. So what employers will choose to do is take one of those 3 weeks that they have in their PTO, remove it, and designate it as paid sick time. So in actuality, an employee could lose, in essence, a week to use at their leisure. Instead, it has to be used for the provisions of what paid sick time requires.
Okay, any positives as we're wrapping up?
The only positive I see is that as an employer offers this, if they offer a payout, which is allowed in the provision, at the end of the year. So the incentive would be for employees to not take paid sick time, to actually earn that time back and potentially end of year get money.
What about in general, the whole thing, the minimum wage increase in general? Any positives?
Well, coming from my side as a consultant, I have a hard time seeing them, except for the fact that for those individuals who were making $8.05 and now making $10, on the surface they will be, you know, bringing a bigger dollar.
Yes. Right. Great information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We could talk to you all day, but unfortunately we're out of time.
We'll be right back.